Hi, welcome to the Shepherd Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Pastor Chris. Thank you for joining me today for another episode. The podcast is a way that we like to get you acquainted with people at Shepherd of the Hills and our church, school, and childcare. Lots of great people doing great things, perhaps some people you've seen around campus, and to give you a little more insight into who they are. Today, my guest is someone that pretty much everyone in our school gets to know because he is our athletic director and does a lot of the coaching and PE, and that is Karl Raesch. And you'll get to know more about his experiences and his thoughts on what he does. He has a wife and 4 kids. 3 of them have graduated from our school, and a 4th one is attending here right now. He's been at Shepherd for 18 years, been coaching and doing what he does for a total of 21 years. So he has a lot of experience to draw on, and I'm really excited to get into our conversation now with Karl Raesch. Karl, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Pastor. Appreciate it.
So tell me, what do you love best about what you do as the athletic director here at Shepherd?
I love watching the kids perform to the best of their abilities. I love to watch the team aspects of the kids just going out there and giving it their all. I just enjoy sports. I've been playing sports since 4 years old. I'm currently 44, so for 40 years of my life. I just really enjoy hanging out with kids, enjoy watching kids get better. And that's a phrase that I use a lot with kids. Always.
Get better.
Get better.
Yep.
Get better. I always tell them 2 words. Get better.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just an honor to work here with the existing program that we had before I got here, and then being able to continue the success of the school. So it's just an awesome opportunity, and it's just a lot of fun to see the kids and hang out with them. And then also parents, getting to know a lot of the different parents. We have parents that have coached. I had some parents that just recently graduated from here that coached since my first year here. They were doing either their kid at a younger level, and then they ended up being my track coach and things of that nature. So, 18 years I got to know people in that aspect and in that regard. And those parents become, lifelong friends. So that's really, really neat. So you get to make a lot of relationships, with the kids, with the parents, with the faculty, even opposing coaches.
True.
We get to know other coaches. Never know their names. It's always just,
hey, coach.
It can have a great conversation, but just don't know their names. It's too funny. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like you have fun with what you do. It seems like you take a sense of humor into what you do, and you try to make it as enjoyable as possible. You accomplish your goals in terms of exercise and sports, but it seems like you really go into it wanting to make it a fun experience.
Oh, definitely. It's very important for the kids to want to have fun, because if they're having fun, they're going to want to continue to do it.
Yep.
If it's something that they do not find enjoyable, they're going to shut down. And, before I was a coach, I was a PE teacher. And as a PE teacher, what we learned in school was keep the kids moving. Mm-hmm. You'll want them to be out there doing some things, just for example, if you have, 20 kids in class, you don't do two lines of 10 kids. You do 10 lines of 2 kids. That way everybody's moving and moving and moving. So I enjoy watching the kids move, and because they're silly and fun,
Yeah.
But just the energy that is brought by me is reflected in the kids. The silliness that is brought by me is reflected in the kids, and I enjoy that.
Yeah. And you're wearing your Shepherd soccer shirt right now. It's soccer season. You oversee the program and the scheduling. You also coach a couple of the teams.
Yes. Right now I'm currently, I would say, co-coaching the 1st grade team with you.
Yeah.
And a couple others. I'm coaching the 2nd grade soccer team, and then I'm assisting Coach Jessica Eggold for the junior high. I was the junior high coach for many, many, many years, and I passed it on to her this year, and she kind of reeled me back in a little bit to assist her, and it's been great. It's been great. Yeah, great partnership there.
Excellent. So you've been doing coaching for more than 2 decades, and I assume that things have changed over those 2 decades, just like everything in the world changes over a couple of decades. What are some of the ways that you have seen coaching and PE, your area, how have you seen those things change over the past 20 plus years?
Well, I would say the goal is still the same. As a coach, you're essentially the teacher on the court or on the field.
Right.
So, and the goal of the coach is to make their players better, for them to understand concepts, to get better at the game, and then ultimately to win games. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think there's been a lot of change there. That the main goal is still the same. Mm-hmm. I think the way it's evolved is more of a societal kind of thing. I think 20 years ago, if I would have said jump to someone, they would jump. They wouldn't even ask how high. They might just start jumping. Yeah. I think if I say jump now, I think you get the question of why. Why do I need to jump? Am I benefiting from this? I think the kids really overthink things, and I think might just be because I think sometimes people are questioning more now, whether it is a teacher, whether it is a parent, whether it is a coach. They're just questioning in general, like, why do I need to do this? Why is this? Why is this? Who are you telling me what to do?
Oh, wow.
Whereas before it was more of, oh, this adult is asking me to do something, I'm going to do it because that's what I was told.
Right.
An athletic change, I think, would be, I think society's changed a little bit in general, where you have to start being a little bit more concerned about the kids. Mm-hmm. If we were at an away tournament or something like that, if they're going to go, hey, coach, got to use the restroom, hey, take your buddy with you. You have to have a buddy system. So that's one thing that True. I do feel is a little bit different. Whereas when I first started coaching, they would have said, Coach, I'm going to the restroom. And I might have said something along the lines of, why are you telling me? Restroom's right there, you know? Yeah. It's just a little bit different. So got to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, where I think before maybe it was, like I said, maybe it was just me being younger, but I think that's also a little bit of a change. So.
Yeah, well, that's a number of changes in a lot of different departments. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned COVID, and that provided some challenges because the kids were at home on Zoom, at least at the end of that one school year where we had to do that for 3 months or whatever mm-hmm. it was. But I remember you provided some activities for parents to do at home. Mm-hmm. And I remember doing that with our kids. It was like, here's a sheet, pick one of these activities and go outside and do it. And I remember us being in the driveway, doing push-ups or jumping jacks or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So you still made it happen even in that situation.
Yeah. And you try to. You want to get the kids out there. You want to get them active. You want to limit the screen time for the kids as much as you can, because that's one of the things. While technology is a blessing, at the same time, it's a little bit of a curse when it comes to the views of a physical education teacher and as a coach.
You have any advice for parents to try to reinforce that at home, being active? Turn off the TV. I think that you talked about limiting screen time. Are there other tips you might have for parents who want their kids to have a more active lifestyle away from PE? It's not just at school where they're active.
I think get them involved in sports. Play every single sport you can. Here at Shepherd, beginning in first grade, they can play all 3 seasons. Fall season, meaning soccer or volleyball, depending, how old they are, and cross country. And then we have basketball in the winter, and then we have baseball, track, and golf in the spring. Mm-hmm. And while some of those are just junior high sports, beginning in first grade, you can do the I don't want to say traditional, but the 3 ball sports, meaning soccer, basketball, and then baseball. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I say baseball because we really haven't had enough girls to make that softball team. It's only happened a couple years. Oh, really? So if we have girls on a team, they end up playing on the baseball team. But sorry, I'm going on a tangent there.
No, not at all.
But I think getting the kids involved in anything they can do, and like I said, you could take advantage of that here or digging deep. The other day we had practice here. I had PE outside all day. Then we had soccer practice, and then went home and I did my little Camp Gladiator workout. And I got home and I was fried. It was so hot all day, and I know I did not have enough water that day. And sure enough, Tucker there, my little ball of energy, he's, hey, you want to play soccer? I'm like, oh, yes. So what I mean by digging deep is, even though you are struggling personally and tired, sometimes you just got to go out there and be the one playing with your kid, because sometimes your kid doesn't have a sibling, or you're a single parent, and I know it's hard because you still got to pack lunches and, you know, make sure that they've done their homework when you get home and all that kind of stuff. But that's what we have to do, is just dig deep and go do it and go be with them.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, the parent participation too. You know, if we want our kids to be enthusiastic about exercise, we as adults should be as well. Like, yeah, I'll go out there and play with you. I won't just say, hey, go out in the backyard, but I'm going to come kick the ball with you for a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, my son, he gets lucky because we have some kids out in the neighborhood, and so he'll leave me and go play with them, and I'm fine. And as soon as they go inside, he's like, what are you doing sitting on the curb? And I'm like, I was just watching you, right? But now it's time for us to play again, you know? Yeah. But yeah, just the parent involvement is huge, and we see it. You know, there's a lot of parents that are very actively involved in their child's life, and there's a lot of growing that the kids do just because they know there's somebody there, you know, to support them at all times.
Right.
You know, it's really good.
Right. You know, I'm thinking about our sports programs and the kind of things that we can do during the day with the kids. The new building is exciting for all of us, but especially when it comes to athletics. So I'm wondering if you can speak to that just for a moment. What are you excited about with the new building? What do you envision us being able to add to our program because of it?
Well, I mean, I'm very, very excited about the building. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition, and every day I, you know, peek over there and see what's new that they're putting up. And I'm learning how smart construction workers are. You know, first you put the roof on, then you put the AC, right. Get that hooked up. Then you can put the walls, and then you can work in the AC. I'm like, oh, these guys are good.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
But no, so we have traditionally run a volleyball tournament that involves about 16 teams over at Lutheran High. We've done 7 years. We just did our 7th annual one, and we'll be doing our 8th annual basketball tournament in November over at Lutheran High, and that'll be really awesome to move that over to our gym next year. And so that really does excite me. I think we'll be able to host more tournaments, including our league tournaments, which is really, really exciting. Mm-hmm. But I think, you know, and this is just me hoping and wishing, but we have a sister school in town along with Lutheran High and ourselves, and if we could ever move that state basketball tournament or state volleyball tournament over here from Houston and maybe rotate it, maybe the Houston area, the Dallas area, and the San Antonio area. Cool. It would be really, really awesome to be able to do something like that, because currently we're just always going to Houston.
That's true.
And their facilities are beautiful. Yeah. But I think once this is complete, we'll be on par with that. So I think it'd be something that would be awesome to have here.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Now, I'm thinking about the different teams you've been a part of, coaching and leading over the years. Can you tell me any memorable teams that we've had at Shepherd, or some of our more accomplished teams in different sports?
Well, I've been blessed to coach many, many, many teams. I think when my son Corbin graduated, we give out this award called the Ironman Award, and it's somebody who plays 3 seasons. And so I've gone throughout the years, I was looking, and there was my son and a buddy of his who were at 32 and 35 teams respectively. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of teams for those kids to play for. Really? And then I was looking at it, and I was looking at my sons, and I'm like, okay, he's got 35 teams that he played for, and I coached him on 30 of them.
Really?
You know? So that's really cool, just to be able to have coached a lot of teams. We've had a ton of success here. Prior to me getting here, I think we had gone to nationals 3 times, and we've gone 8 times since.
We're talking basketball?
We're talking basketball here, I'm sorry.
Yep.
And I think the basketball program has grown tremendously. One of our coaches, Jay Stevenson, he has coached either the boys or girls, and he's taken like 4 or 5 teams. And Coach Cooper, who is now just Mr. Cooper, he coached a few teams, and Brian Smith coached the team for us also that went there. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of success. Our girls right now, I think, are on a 7-year district champ. I don't want to say outright championship, but we've either been the regular season or the postseason tournament champion. Mm-hmm. Our boys are like 10 out of 11 years. And then our soccer program has probably 6 or 7 championships and a bunch of second places. I mean, or runners up, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we've had some really good ones. I mean, going to nationals is a great experience. I mean, we lost a heartbreaker in the quarterfinals one year on a 5-foot shot, just hit the front of the rim. Oh. And that was right after a kid hit a 30-footer. And as soon as he shot it, I'm in line with it. I'm like, oh, that's in. And it was in. Wow. You know, and you know, we've had some very memorable games, memorable teams. I think some of those memories, like my second year here, we actually have Pastor James Ebersol. I coached him, and it was hilarious. I still remember the incident. You know, he was goofing off, and we were in a hotel, because way back when the tournament was in Austin, and we had the kids at the Embassy Suites, and we'd sleep. Coach would sleep in the little suite area, and the kids would sleep in the room, and he was goofing off. And I told him, I said, I'm gonna make you do 50 laps before the game tomorrow. And he thought I was joking. And right when we get to the game and we're about to start, I dropped the T-shirt they'd give us for the tournament. I dropped it on the floor. I was like, you got 50 laps. Made him run in a little circle 50 times. It's kind of funny. But he and I still joke about that, you know. He's like, I remember that. I'm like, I know.
And how did he do in the game?
He ran circles around the other team.
Just kept going.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that.
He did great. We actually did really, really well that season. So we finished in the top 8. Kind of missed. I think we finished 5th actually that year. Yeah. We lost the quarterfinal on the heartbreaker in that one also. But it was good.
So have you ever encountered any parents who get a little out of control on the sidelines?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
What do you do as a coach in those situations?
Well, if it's the other team's parents, I look at their coach going, are you going to do something about it? And if it's ours, I look for our admin on duty. And if that is me, then I just go, and I usually just sit right next to them and just say, how are we doing today? And maybe bring a nice little water over to them, a nice cold one. Hey, how are we doing today? Could you use some of this? And something as simple as that can calm someone down, because they'll realize, yeah, he's sitting next to me, and there's a reason for it.
The coach just came and sat next to me.
Yeah. And so it can be easy, and it can get heated. I mean, I've had both. You know, I've had both things happen, but usually it's not necessarily heated towards me or towards maybe the other coach. It's usually towards an official, and they're not agreeing with them, which the only thing you can say is, well, I agree that is a foul, just for example, that is a foul. It's not a foul today. Like, sorry, they're not calling it.
It's not a foul today.
Let's just move past this and, you know, try to keep it positive, as positive as we can. So that's really what we want to do, is because ultimately, if you're over here yelling like that, your kid is watching, your kid's friends are watching, other people are watching. It's just not a good impression to make, you know. And sometimes we just need to take a step back, take a drink of that water, and just enjoy the game for what it is. Because when it's all said and done, nobody's getting paid to play out here. They are just kids trying to have fun. And while it can be frustrating, you should just enjoy watching your kid play, you know.
You ever had any referees who obviously were not seeing reality, and how did you handle that?
That's a funny one. Yeah, I have seen, and I have yelled at referees. But I did learn that the best question ever asked a referee is, excuse me, Mr. Referee, can I ask what you saw on that play? Because when you see it through their eyes, then you can understand what they were seeing.
Okay.
And so that has really helped me out, because there are times like, what, you know, you're thinking to yourself, what game are you watching right now? Because like, I don't agree with that at all. But then when you ask him and you're like, well, I saw his foot do this, or I saw his arm, you know, brush across the guy's face, that's why I made the call, or whatever it is. You get to understand, you know, what they're thinking and why it was called. I mean, that's basically what you're asking. Why did you call that? And it's a nicer way of saying it too, especially when you start with, "Excuse me, Mr. Referee." Oh yeah, that already tones it down. But I have yelled at some refs. I had a player once who was getting pretty mauled, and that's going to be the correct term for this, at a soccer game. He just kept getting pushed, and they kept kicking his legs, and no cards were given, and then he ended up rolling over his arm and dislocating his elbow.
Oh, no.
And as I walked onto the field, I should say ran onto the field, I do remember giving some not so kind words to those referees, because they made that happen, because they weren't giving those cards early and setting the tone for the game. You know, you see that in the NBA, how if it's rough in the first quarter, by the time it's the fourth quarter, they're letting them get away with just about anything.
Right.
And that's kind of how it was in this game. And, you know, I kept telling him, you got to call that. You got to call that. And it was an unfortunate incident. Great player came back from it and ended up being a state champion in basketball and going to nationals. He was one of the ones that lost that super awesome, exciting game. But it was unfortunate the way it happened up at nationals. But
what do you say to a team after a tough, heartbreaking loss?
Well, the first thing that I've always done is let them do their thing first. They're going to be upset. They're going to be heartbroken. But when I walk into anything, it's just, you know, you become heartbroken. I've cried with kids. I mean, losing, I'm thinking just some games right now, I'm starting to get a little teary-eyed, to be honest with you. But, you know, you just say, hey, we're all in this together. We played great. We gave it our all. You know, you left it on the court. Sometimes the ball, you know, this is kind of cliche, you know, sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. But most importantly, we did all we could as a team. So we went in there as a team. We came out as a team. The season might be over, but we'll always remember what we had this season, because it was a memorable one, you know? So
those memories are still pretty fresh, some of those games.
Yeah. I remember, man, my son Noah, he lost 2 state championships in the Division II and then in the Division I, and both of them at the end. One kid hit a 3 literally at the buzzer to lose by 1. And again, that was one where I'm like, I'm right on line with that. That's going in. I was like,
no.
I won't forget that one. And then the next year, it was one of those games where we just did not play well. And we were so much better than that other team, but we couldn't make a shot. And we had a couple guys coming back from injury, and they just didn't play as well as they could have, you know, missing layups. Like, we never miss. And then that game we did. But, I remember my son up at Nationals. It was because I knew it was the last time I was going to coach him, because he was graduating, obviously. And I say that, but we still had baseball season where we won the championship. That was our first and only championship. That was really, really cool.
Wow.
But, you know, my buddy Jay, who's the coach, and I'm the assistant on that one, you know, we walk into the locker room at Valparaiso up at Nationals, and he sees me teary-eyed. He's like, all right, coach, you're up first. I was like, thanks, man.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, totally put me on the spot. I don't even think I had a so that was one which was really great, because I had one kid who I used to joke with him, because my dad used to joke with me, you know, like, you know, I hurt my finger. He's like, hey, you got 9 good ones. What are you complaining about? Like, think of the bright side.
That's great. Love that.
So I remember this one kid who I used to joke with him about that, you know, and he would always be like, I got one good shoulder. He's like, but that's only 50%, coach. But at Nationals, he's like, coach, we got baseball season. We still got baseball season. I said, all right. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty memorable.
What's the most exhilarating win that you've been a part of?
There's been a lot. I mean, obviously winning a state championship, which actually that one wasn't even that exciting, because we were so much better than the other team. The other team upset the 2 seed. The 7 beat the 2 early on, and then they ended up going to the championship. And when they faced us, we smoked them. It wasn't even that exciting, but it was actually one that I was an assistant coach for, and Josh Cooper was the head coach, and it was for the 3rd place game. It was to get eligible to go to nationals, because they take the top 3 teams from Texas to go to nationals. And we were down by maybe 18 points. And he made the craziest change ever. He put one of our posts as the point guard, and our point guard, who was like number 11 in the state as a point guard in the AAU system. I mean, this kid would shoot 30 footers, no problem. Kind of put him on the wing, and it was a weird change, but just started chipping away at that lead, and then next thing you know, in the last minute of the game, we hit a couple shots and we won by 3, and that was a really good, memorable game. But I think one of my favorites ever is going to be one of my daughter's games, and it was at state, and we played the 1 seed, and we were the 8, and this team smoked us early on in the year by 35 points, something like that, and we were down 11-0, probably a minute and a half into the game, and I thought, oh gosh, here we go again, and kept chipping away, playing. The girls played great, played hard. We were up in the 4th, and then they made a couple, in my opinion, lucky shots. When you make a bank 3, I know it all counts the same, but those are the ones that are daggers to you. And they made a couple, and we ended up losing by 6. But it was pretty awesome, you know, to see them play that well. So that was one of my memorable games right there. It wasn't even a win. I'm sorry. I think I went off topic there, but. That was one of the good memories.
How do you keep the really good players from getting a big ego, and how do you help them to stay humble, the really talented players?
Well, I think here at Shepherd, in our setting, it starts actually in the classroom, because sometimes big ego players, they have a big ego in the classroom as well. And I think everybody reminds everybody, and I'm not saying negatively or anything like that, but just, hey, settle down, we're good. In the classroom, you would probably see something like that. On the court, we always preach the team concept. We're a team here. And so I recall my son's 8th grade year, we had 2 players that were very, very good on our team. And after one of the games, you heard both of them like, hey, I got 14 and I got 16, and they were comparing stats. And that was one where, hey, what are these numbers? We got one W today, and that's what matters. What can we do? And so right there, for those guys who had those big heads, they kind of realized, okay, maybe it's bigger than just the 2 of us comparing. And when we broke, I don't want to say broke, but when we got through to them, man, that guy was 10 feet from the basket, but the other guy was 4 feet from the basket, so he'd pass it to him, and the selfishness just went away. Wow. And really cool to see, because we put it in terms of, well, you don't have to run those extra 10 feet, you can just make that pass. And then we can get back and we can go do it again. Let's do it again. Let's go smash. Let's go go after these guys. We can do this. And just positive reinforcement. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, everything's great all the time, because it's not, Right. That's get better. Get better. You hear that, like I said, and I know you've heard me say that even with the kids when I'm coaching alongside you. It's just got to get better. But those kids respond to the positive reinforcement and just the simple reminders of why we're here. We're here for a couple of reasons, right? 1, win games. 2, camaraderie. 3, do all we can to the glory of God, And the order's probably not that order right there, but that's just what came to mind. And, it's just important that when we do reach these kids, it's important to continue to remind them afterward, like, how great they're doing by giving them simple reminders of, remember 3 months ago how you were? Look at what you've become. Yeah. And it's real nice to see the growth of the kids. Yeah.
I can keep thinking. I'm thinking of all sorts of scenario questions, but I should probably round it out with a wrap-up question for you. And the one I'd like to ask is about faith. You mentioned about playing to the glory of God. How does Christian faith factor into what you do coaching and teaching PE?
Well, I think the first word that comes to mind when I think of, just being a good Christian on the court or even in the classroom, meaning PE, I think of sportsmanship. And why, when you are being a good sportsman, you're being a good Christian in essence, because you're trying to win. And yes, I said earlier, smash, but you're trying to win the game, but you're trying to be humble. So right. you're what would Jesus do? I know that's a little cliche as well, but we want to make sure that our kids are having a good experience. They are getting better with what they do, whether it is academically, physically, or spiritually. But we also want to just keep in mind that no matter what we are doing, we are leading by example. So like walking over to that parent and sitting next to them, like, hey, how you doing today? Same thing has to happen to us as coaches by other coaches. Hey, I think you're a little hangry right now. Let me get you a Snickers bar, like just settle down. Yeah. You got to lead by example and show the kids that ultimately it's just a game. I mean, I hate to say it, as much effort as we put into it, but it's just a game. We need to realize that we're here to have fun and just be good people, I mean, I think in our program, I think we do an excellent job. I've won a game 58-4 before in basketball. And I've had the coach come up to me and say thank you. And because we did all we could. And I mean, literally, like, we were very nice. No pressing, no fast breaks. They shoot the ball. We're going to work on boxing out. We're going to let it bounce twice before we can go get the rebound. Like, we went to the extreme. And the coach is right there hearing us talk and just saying thank you, because we could have shut them out very easily and scored way over 100 if we had really chosen to. Yeah. And, the kids feed off of that too. I had a kid one time who I had told him no fast breaks. Third quarter, no fast breaks. We're up big. And I already had pulled out the starters and told him, you're not playing the rest of the game. There's absolutely no need for you to. And the kid went and shot a fast break, and he made it. And I called timeout, and I said, this is just for a sub. And told the kid he's going to sit out for a little while. And then I only had 10 on the team. So the starters are looking at me going, who's coming on? I said, oh, no, you're fine. And so I went and told the coach, I said, I'm not trying to show you up, but we're going to play with the four that are going to play right now. He was going to come back in a couple minutes, but he needs to realize what he's done. Just kind of prove to him, hey, you're in the wrong right now. Get it together. We're going to win and we're going to beat them badly, but we don't need to be jerks about it. Wow. Wow. So good teaching moment, I thought.
Yeah. These have been some fantastic stories. It's amazing how many great life lessons come out of sports.
Yeah, I agree. As a coach and as a teacher, you have to teach the kids when it's okay to be excited for a win and when it's okay to cry about a win or a loss. Mm-hmm. Just in general, there's so many teaching moments that we are able to give towards the kids. And there's also a lot of learning moments, Mm-hmm. I didn't know all of these things until you experience it. And sometimes you do it completely wrong, and that's when you learn, when somebody says, I think you should do it like this. Yeah. And you got to be willing to listen and learn. And that's one of the things we tell the kids too, It's like we weren't born with coaching in our bones and in our brain. It's something we learned, and then we appreciate it, and then we're like, oh, I have this gift of knowledge, I can pass it on to someone, and then we do. So
yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun, just having this conversation. Thank you very much for what I feel is very beneficial to our listeners and viewers. I think they're really going to enjoy this. And thanks for what you do here to be a leader and to show that Christian love and care to all of our students.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you, listeners.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Shepherd Podcast today. Great conversation, a lot to take out of it. Please join us next time as we continue to bring you more of the great people here at Shepherd of the Hills. And until then, the Lord's blessings to you. May He keep you healthy and safe and strong. The peace of the Lord be with you today.